That's what Reagan said.
Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 250 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one financial committee review podcast in Canada. We're recording on August 3rd, 2020. My name is Andrew. I'll be your host. Joining me tonight, we have Gavin, Marty, Ian, and Benny.
Ben, we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Please send us all of your financial tips. We could really use them. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
As always, you can find the podcast on all of the socialist medias, Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast, Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast. And stay tuned for Andrew's new TikTok account.
Keep it short.
I don't know any TikTok dances. That's me swaying from side to side out of time with anything is as good as it's going to get.
Well, if they ban TikTok, I guess if you want to see a 16-year-old dance, you can go to the Epstein's Island, I suppose. Ouch. Anyway, so we need your help to support the show. Visit patreon.com/CPP. And become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Since we moved to the 2-show-a-week COVID format, Patreons also get an early access to the midweek show. Sure you're not a communist, buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
And that brings us to my favorite segment. That's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I ask my co-hosts, what are we drinking? And we're going to go clockwise, starting with Gavin. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Coors Banquet this evening.
That's
How
a
many
rare beast.
banquets do you have left?
I've got a few. Would you like a few more?
No. I'm quite happy to have had my last banquet with my friends after having shot a match. That's fine. I'm just a little jealous you'll have some.
Well, I can
So
spare
we
the
need to do
last
some
few.
fact checking on this, but I've heard rumors that potentially the kegs are still the banquet.
Mm.
Why would
So
they
by
bottle
volume.
it differently for the keg?
Again, more interning needs to be done on this.
You're saying we need to buy a keg.
Yes.
I'm in.
So
I'm in.
a source had
Visit
a
patreon.com
draft from a local establishment, and it tasted like the old banquet, not the new stuff. So there's the potential that if you get the kegs, it could be the actual banquet.
Well, for science, I'm willing to find out.
But more research is definitely needed on this. Let's order a few kegs and visit a few establishments. Compare.
Marty, what are you drinking?
I have Summersby tonight.
Do you raid Better Andrew's place?
No, actually, I just had it in the fridge, and then I went to grab another bush, and I had previously drank all of the cold bushes in the fridge prior to the podcast, so had to grab a cider.
Yeah.
Quality show prep. I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ian, what are you drinking?
It's a holiday.
Yeah.
It's a good festive drink. For myself, I'm drinking rum mojitos. With they're very boogaloo friendly at this point, and also has to come into play later on in the show when we talk about our partisan challenge.
Oh, well, this is getting
Ooh.
exciting. Benny,
Yes.
what are you drinking?
I'm drinking water.
2 liters of those a day.
I'm on, getting that 2 liters in. Right.
All right. So, partisan challenge, we should talk about why Benny is smashing stuff against his microphone. And also, item 5. We haven't talked about item 5 in the weeks leading up to this. One task every day to improve your life. I don't care what it is. Just do one thing to make your life better.
Go to work.
We should,
Make money. Does that count?
I'm going to say that it has to be an unusual activity, something you would not normally do. The thing you're putting off on the honey-do list, the project that you started but didn't finish, the the flower bed that you need to weed but haven't in 2 years. Those kind of tasks.
I see.
So one task in addition to the four other tasks that we're already tasking them with that will also improve their life.
Yes.
That's right. A choose your own adventure task, if you will.
Ooh.
But it's a task that you wouldn't normally have completed. So, like, as an example, today I did a bunch of bookkeeping because I'm really bad at doing bookkeeping for my business, and the government is constantly harassing me to pay taxes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how. I owe you some money probably, but so I sat down and I did the books, and it was awful. Yesterday I cleaned the garage because it was one of those things that I haven't done in months, and it was also awful.
I can completely relate.
All right, so
pick a thing.
challenge is now live. We should probably do a quick rundown of all 5.
Okay, challenge is live. Facebook, Instagram, or the podcast website. Template. Go get the template. Post it on your social media. Tag us. We'll repost your thing. We'll use the social media. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose if you're on the TikToks,
Probably
you could do it there too, but we won't see it. But, do it anyways.
And don't tag us.
Yeah, we don't want the Chinese knowing.
So are you expecting people to like post this every day, this list?
I mean, if they want to, I'm okay if they do that, or I'm okay if they want to post their like particularly epic thing that they did. But I would like to see everybody do this every day, because I have 635 reasons why you should be a better person every day. Tomorrow I'll have 634 reasons, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
May the first is coming, everyone.
One of those things of being a better person being don't make insufferable posts about all the cool things you did on social media.
I mean, I suppose.
If that's your one thing that you want to do every day, Marty, to better your life, then so be it.
I mean, Marty already doesn't social media, so this would be... I don't see how this would be an extraordinary thing for Marty.
Yeah, he's got you there.
This just becomes a regular ordinary thing.
It's a regular Marty task.
Yeah, but now I can do it with purpose.
All right. I can appreciate how you spun that. Well done.
I'll allow it, yeah.
So yeah, go get the social media templates, share it with your friends, tag us in your stuff. We'll repost your stuff. It'll be a good time. If you do something cool, tag us in that too. Also, stop tagging me in push-up challenges. I'm not doing them. That's not going to be something I can do. Not something I can do for 45 minutes. Not something I want to do for 45 minutes. Not doing push-up challenges.
I feel like you could knock out 25 push-ups in 45 minutes. I have faith in you.
Again, I appreciate how you spun that.
I mean, I think I could even do 45 in 45 minutes.
You've managed to take the worst of both of these things and find the silver lining. I'm not doing it, though. So, yeah, 5 things on the list. 45 minutes of exercise, which could include your 25 push-ups for PTSD awareness or whatever. 10 minutes of practicing a skill, like a real, actual physical skill. 15 minutes of reading. We're going to say no coloring books. Books with words. At least books predominantly made with words.
Yeah, a few photos is fine, but mostly words.
Drink your 2 liters of water, which I still think is low, but like I have definitely received feedback from some of our favorite listeners and shooters that middle-aged women will have a hard time with this, which I think is bunk, but good luck to Emily and her 2 liters of water that she's going to now be drinking.
Why is that different? Like 2 liters seems like not a lot at all.
Well, that's my theory, is like 2 liters is probably a good minimum benchmark. Just like 45 minutes of exercise every day is like a good minimum benchmark.
Well, I think I sweat
guess if
that
you're
much
not
out through my
drinking
feet
any
every day, but I mean, like, some women don't sweat nearly as much as guys, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so I think 2 liters for the vast majority of adults is a realistic goal. I think if you go and actually talk to like a dietitian or a nutritionist, they'll tell you that it's like 1 ounce of water per kilogram of body weight or thereabouts. Like, I think that's what the science says, but it depends on your output level, like your effort level. So if you're living in a desert and running a marathon every day, that's probably still not enough water, even though it's like a lot of water for most people. Like compared to what your average North American drinks, which is to say very, very little water.
Yeah. Yeah, when I'm down in Utah and it's ridiculously balls hot, I consume a lot of water. And then more because I'm also drinking beer a lot.
That beer's 95% water. Still counts.
Yeah.
Also a diuretic. Doesn't count. And then, fifth and final thing, do one thing every day to improve your comfort, standing, or way of living. Do that extraordinary task. Or in Marty's case, social media. Good enough?
Yep, good enough.
Okay, good. Go do the partisan challenge thing, and then next month look out for new templates when we see if we can have like a do it every day for a month thing. We're really like slow walking this one in, guys. We talked about it for a month. Now we got a month to get this down. Then we're gonna have like, again, 635 reasons why you need to be a better person today. 634 more reasons tomorrow, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So on that note, for my number 5 task today, I decided to go over to my neighbors, humbly beg a mint plant off them, and improve my life by having a overgrown mint bush in my garden, so I can have fresh mojitos every day.
There you go.
Improves my comfort.
Nice. Well done, sir. Well done.
I can't wait to hear about
like
the
how you've
podcast
done this.
about 3 weeks from now, when the only thing you have left in that garden is mint.
So that speeds up to drink more mojitos than to keep up.
Drink faster.
Yeah. Just make sure that you put 2 liters worth of ice into it, and then you're golden.
That's right.
Yeah,
Killing two-
not how that works, but
That's
I
killing-
appreciate your enthusiasm.
Killing 2 birds with the same stone or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've only got 2 things for the news tonight that we can talk about. I mean, there's lots more things that we could talk about, but I have 2 things slated for us to talk about. The first of which is everything we said last week about Nova Scotia is wrong. The Nova Scotia spree killing, the government completely did a 180 over the last week. There were protests in Nova Scotia. I've linked articles from CTV, Global, and Caliber magazine. The government is now actually launching a proper public inquiry into the Nova Scotia mass killings.
Are we allowed to put air quotes around proper until we determine if this actually is a proper investigation or not?
I read the release after trying to listen to Bill Blair speak, which
Yeah, that never goes well.
no, not a good time. It is within the bounds of the Inquiry Act, and it is actually a proper and legal public inquiry that has subpoena and summons powers, so they can compel people to testify the same as you can be compelled to testify in a regular court.
I wonder if that's why Annie decided to bail on it, because she knew it was going to turn into a dumpster fire real fast instead of a predetermined outcome.
I'm sorry, Anne McClellan is no longer on the inquiry board now?
As soon as they decided to do a full inquiry, she walked.
Interesting, because I had read that all 3 members of the panel were now... Constituent is not the right word, but whatever they call them when they're on a board of inquiry as opposed to when they were on the panel of doubt that they were on before.
No, she took a walk.
Wow. The other 2 still on? The police chief
yep.
and the senator?
As far as I know, yep.
Interesting. I had read that all 3 of them were going to be moving on to being on the board of inquiry.
Oh.
Again, that's not its right name. I don't remember its right name.
The Spanish Inquisition? Is that the
No.
right name?
It's commissioner. The position on the inquiry board is commissioner.
So I'll throw it in the show note here on
the Inquisition.
I'll throw it in the private chat there on the side.
So I think this is good news because
Yeah.
I don't like how the government was doing this. I don't like how the government has been inactive. I'm still not super happy about this because the interim report is not going to come out until the end of February of next year. And then the actual report is not coming out until August. So they're going to have over a year to do this.
I'm very... Considering how they handled it and tried to not do an investigation, it doesn't really give me a lot of confidence that they're going to put a whole lot of effort into the actual investigation.
No, but I'm amazed that they flippity-flopped on this and they're actually doing an inquiry now instead of just the panel.
Well, I guess maybe Trudeau
they'll do an inquiry, but they won't give them...
Yeah,
like they won't give them any resources to actually do their job. They'll be stonewalled everywhere they attempt to go and look at. Like it's just going to be, I don't know. I'm skeptical that it's going to be well done. I think this is all theater. But hopefully not.
So you're saying
hopefully
it's a government action being run by the government then?
But with the intention, but it's not just regular incompetence. It's with malice.
It's government incompetence. So
yeah, it's like
extraordinary.
The plebes are riled up. We should, pretend to do that thing to calm them down again.
Yeah,
I still
just because they can subpoena people doesn't mean they will subpoena people.
Can you imagine?
No, I suppose that's true.
There being a protest and Trudeau just pulling out $200. Who do I pay this to? Foreshadowing, sorry.
I don't even. So I don't think this is going to go particularly well. I'm kind of with Marty. Like I was optimistic, and then I read the dates on this, and I was like, "It's going to be over a year." Well, this is nonsense.
I mean,
but I guess at least we're doing it now, which is something. I think Marty might be right though. I feel that this is bread and circuses.
Yeah, it's a step forward at least. I mean, hopefully we're wrong, and it's actually done well and appropriately, and like they utilize that time to really, dig deep and get good information, and we figure out why those guys lit up the fire hall, and all kinds of other questions that we're like curious about, like maybe even what firearms were used.
Like I appreciate that they're at least pretending that they're not all corrupt again. Like I know that they thought that they were past that point where they didn't need to pretend anymore. But enough people were riled up that they're like, oh, fine, let's go back to pretending.
Yeah.
I will take pretend government over like obvious corrupt government.
Yeah. Because at least pretend government needs to do things appropriately every now and again, if for no other reason than to keep up the whole charade. Like every once in a while, they need to have an election to pretend that you get to have a say as to how things are running your area. Yeah.
Choose your elected dictator for 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Who then is whipped on all of the important votes, so he doesn't actually get to represent your beliefs in any way.
Yeah.
The alternative is they don't do any of that, and I get to declare myself local warlord. And then we have a dictatorship where my boot is on the neck of people that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Would be like Chaz, Western Ontario, or something like that.
Well, yeah, you just kind of like
without the vegan stuff.
I will install myself as sheriff, and I will get like a really, really good set of boots. Like,
I can see Andrew just going into
Doc Martin
the
still make those ones with. Does Doc Martin still make the ones with the swastikas on the bottom?
Dictator.
I don't think that was Doc Martin that made those ones. I think that might have been a different company.
Well,
but I'm sure they still exist.
Like appropriate boots for putting on the neck of people that disagree with me.
Well, I could see you walking into the local constituent's office and going, "Look at me. I'm the MPP now."
Not even. I would 100% install myself as sheriff.
Why not both?
Captain.
Because I don't want to be a member of parliament.
The high sheriff.
At any level.
Just combine the two positions. Then you get to make laws and enforce them. Kind of like our government.
I mean, well, that's what I'm getting at. Is if we're going to have a government that's like obviously corrupt and fake and gay, well, somebody get me a rainbow flag.
That can be done. Careful what you wish for.
Like I said, I'd rather it was being run in my own favor at least, because right now I'm just getting told I get to vote in my favor, and then they do whatever they want anyway. So if they just keep it up a little bit longer, eventually I can just disregard what they're saying and install my own form of government.
And your garden will be far more impressive than the one at Chaz.
Yeah, my garden grows things. I got so many apples on my tree. My apple tree is doing quite well this season.
There's a
When
tree
did you-
somewhere else that's awfully thirsty.
What year did you plant that? Did you just plant that this year?
No, I think this is its third year.
Okay.
It's either its third or
I'm
fourth
like,
year. I
you
can't remember
want
if
to
we
pull
bought
all
it.
those apples off for the first couple of years.
Oh yeah, they're not good. It's just like the first 2 years we hardly got any apples. So at least now we're like, it's actually got enough to like. It looks like it might be an apple tree someday.
Did you thin them all out?
I need to, I think, do a better job of it, but I've been trying to.
We'll have to talk about this offline. Gotta get you sorted out.
It grew a lot over the last couple of 4 months. Like it's probably grown about 3 feet from where it was. So there's definitely stuff at the top that I can no longer reach without a ladder. That's a bit of a predicament for me.
You just get one of those apple pickers on a pole.
Well, I'm gonna have to get an
Are
apple
you
picker
allowed
and a
to-
pole then.
Are you allowed to hang migrants off of a pole? I thought that was frowned upon.
I'm not touching that one. I'm
Yeah.
not joking about violently overthrowing the government, but I'm not talking about putting migrants on poles.
I've said too much.
Was there anything else about the inquiry we wanted to talk about? Or that was it? We're having an inquiry in bread circuses
It's a step up.
and apple trees.
It's a step up. It's better than it was, and then we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I guess the next one we might as well settle in because I've got to listen for this. I don't know why Pierre Poilievre is not the front runner for the Conservative leadership election, but we can loop back around to that after we have a listen to a couple of things that he had to say. We'll start with the conversation that he had with Bill Morneau, the Finance Committee last week.
To believe that it is a mere coincidence that you repaid over $40,000 of expenses associated with your travel on a WE charity trip, that you just repaid it today on the same day you were expected to testify under oath about it? Is that just a coincidence, Minister?
Mr. Minister. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think what I want to make sure that I communicate is this was a mistake on my behalf. I'm responsible for any expenses that I incur on trips being paid for. This was an expense that I was unaware of, that I did not know had not been paid. And when I found that out over the course of the last
$41,000 expense, you didn't know about a $41,000 expense? How is that even possible?
Mr. Minister. Again, Mr. Chair, I just have to say that in review of our records, I understood that there was no charge for these travel expense or these expenses at the WE facilities. And once I found that out, I endeavored to repay that. And of course, it was a mistake on my part, which I take full responsibility for.
I mean, the average Canadian living in Red Deer or Halifax that goes on a trip would notice if there was say a $400 expense that they didn't pay, maybe a hotel room for a couple of nights that never got charged them, and they paid immediately. But you're telling me that on this obviously very luxurious trip that $41,000 of expenses happened right under your nose, and you didn't know about it until it suddenly, through an epiphany, came to your attention the very day you were to testify in a parliamentary committee about it. You expect us to believe that?
Mr. Chair, is for me.
There's no
As
one
I
else
said-
to answer for you, Mr. Morneau. You're the one on
Sorry,
the stand.
sorry, I was muted, Mr. Minister. Yes, you got the floor.
As I said, this was a mistake on my behalf. We immediately looked at our records. We reviewed those records to find the flights and the hotel expenses that were paid, and did not find any expenses that were charged to us for the time at the WE facilities. When we went through our records in detail and concluded that we realized, my wife and I, that we needed to have someone reach out to the WE organization, and did that in order to pay those expenses. It is my mistake. It is a mistake that I regret. I apologize for that. And as I said, I will definitely work with the Ethics Commissioner, including this issue, to make sure it's fully understood and accounted for.
Back to Mr. Polyev.
Do you realize that originally accepting these free benefits associated with your trip was strictly illegal under the Conflict of Interest Act? Yes or no?
Mr. Minister.
Mr. Chair, we, of course, recognize that we are responsible for our own expenses. That is my responsibility. It was something I was unaware of, and so that
Do you realize it was
being
illegal?
unaware,
Do you realize now that it was illegal?
Mr. Minister.
that those expenses, which I was unaware of, were appropriately my expenses, and that's why we've repaid them.
You realize, though, that it was illegal. You are, as a minister, strictly forbidden from accepting any form of sponsored travel under the Conflict of Interest Act. I'm asking you, do you realize that the Act makes it illegal for you to have accepted these expenses paid for by we in the first place? Do you realize that was illegal? Yes or no?
Mr. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as I've said, I looked back in a detailed fashion over my records. I found that that we received no expenses notice for these expenses. As soon as we found that out, we endeavored to make sure those payments were made, and it's a mistake. I will, and
all right. Thank you very much.
Did
you in the month of August 2019 announce a grant for We Charity for $3 million in the same month that your daughter accepted a job from that organization? Yes or no?
Mr. Minister.
Mr. Chair, I think it's important to know that program, which I did announce, was developed and delivered by Employment and Social Development Canada.
Simple
as
question.
the person who was responsible for that organization in the riding, I did announce that program.
So you announced a $3 million grant to an organization that had just hired your daughter the very same month. True statement or false statement?
My microphone is on.
Mr.
Go ahead,
Chair,
Mr. Minister.
Thank you. I want to be very clear that this is a program that was developed,
true or false?
delivered by the Employment
Minister,
and Social Development Canada. I announced it on behalf of our government, but was not involved in the development of that program.
Your daughter accepted a position with that organization.
Pierre, last question.
So in the same month as your daughter accepted a position with the organization, you announced a $3 million grant to that organization. You can just tell me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
Mr. Chair, I'm obviously very proud of the fact that Grace took on a co-op job at the WE organization. I'm proud of the fact that she, of her own accord, went out and got a first job in an administrative capacity. And obviously my role as a minister is separate and distinct from that. I did deliver an announcement, but I was not involved in the development or.
Yeah. It's enough of listening to that guy. So, once more though, why is Polivar not the leader for the Conservative Party? Because this is a really good line of questioning. I mean, I think I know the answer to that, but go ahead and enlighten me.
So his reasoning. So obviously he was favored to run. You know, a lot of people kind of wanted him to run, but his reasoning for stepping and choosing not to run in this election was, if I remember correctly, because of the proximity to the federal election. He had just been sort of campaigning for the previous year, which took a lot of time away from his family, and he didn't want to go into another election immediately afterwards and wanted to spend more time with his family in the near term.
Okay, that's the same thing that I had heard, and I it is not unfair, but he's also got like 15 or 16 years of experience, and he is one of the better MPs to listen to him ask the current government, Big G, why they're doing what they're doing. I like with Morneau. Okay, but can you, it's a yes or no question, did you do this? But it's a yes or no question. Did you do this? Could you just tell me if I'm wrong? I appreciate the level of tenacity with the question asking.
Yeah.
I wonder if when they get elected as a Liberal MP, do they get given a book that says, congrats on being elected, here's some rules. Never answer a question directly. Like, just tell everybody how proud you are and how they talk about diversity being a strength and stuff. And like, never once have I heard a Liberal MP answer a question.
That's really Morneau's answer to all
here's
of
the
this.
issue, Ian.
What's that?
Never have they been forced to.
That's right.
So even in this case, with someone hounding him, there's still nothing forcing him to actually answer the question. There's no repercussion for him not answering the question. So why would you answer a question that you know that
it's called question period, not answer period, right?
That's right. It's amazing.
This is my argument. The Sergeant at Arms should be able to beat people, and I would apply for that job. Every time that you don't answer the question in Parliament, the Sergeant at Arms comes by and whacks you with the mace.
Just breaks a knuckle or two, just to teach you a lesson, and then works his way up,
Yeah. Or like you get one non-answer, but it's like a really stern look, and he takes the mace and he puts it on his shoulder and readies it, and then that's
he just walks over and stands right behind you.
Yeah.
Somebody else holds your hands flat,
No, he just does the. What's his face? A guy running for president for the Democrats. He starts rubbing your shoulders, sniffing your hair. Make anyone uncomfortable.
Yeah, that would be really creepy.
I mean, that would be creepy, but I would prefer there were physical repercussions for politicians that don't answer the question.
Oh, I'm just suggesting that the shoulder rub and the hair.
That's their warning.
That's the warning.
He gets creepy and then he gets violent.
Yeah.
So he pretty much acts like a liberal.
Yeah,
definitely apply for this job. Yeah. So Morneau's not going to answer the question, but I do like it. Basically, any time that Polivar speaks in Parliament is always good to listen. He is very good at asking the same question repeatedly.
Did anyone else think it's weird, like his response that he's apologizing? Like, if it really was an oversight, like I feel like an appropriate response was there was an oversight, and my personal whatever was going to
the
start.
correct thing was the second question that Morneau, or the second question that was asked Morneau was, do you expect me to believe that you didn't notice a $41,000 bill? Like you just overlooked $41,000. You didn't notice there was a $41,000 charge.
When you got all that potato money.
He didn't get the bill. That's the whole thing. He never.
So here's
except he somehow did.
Oh, okay.
Because he reimbursed we for it.
Yes, because they contacted we the previous week, like a year and a half later.
Yeah, that thing that you gave us for free, we need a receipt for that so we can pay it now.
Yes.
Yeah, that conversation.
We're about to get caught, so if we could just go ahead and cook the books.
Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, exactly.
And it's not even the fact that he didn't get the receipt and didn't pay for it. The issue is that as a member of parliament, he's not allowed to accept travel. So it's not even that he missed paying it back. He did $41,000 worth of travel and never didn't pay for it in the first place.
Yeah, that's
Well,
this is what I have an issue with. This.
It's one thing to forget to pay something back. It's another thing when you know you're not even supposed to accept it in the first place.
Well, I think if an apology won't do it from Trudeau this time, I think we found our scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
And
I don't even think
it's
that
not
they're going
like
to make this guy
Trudeau
resign.
had already. It's not like Trudeau had already had the Aga Khan bullshit happen, where this clearly was like made a big deal of that you can't accept travel. He then didn't know he wasn't allowed to accept travel and did the exact same thing.
Well, that everyone at some point in their life has forgotten to pay a bill. And I guess if you've got like billions of dollars because you've been, taking people's tax
King of
money
the
and
French fries.
making all the French fry money. Like I get how like maybe to him like 40 grand is like pocket change. But like how do you go over a year and not like people not like being a finance minister, one would think that he at least looks at his books yearly.
Well, I would say but it's more of his accountant should be held accountable.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I don't know about you, but like if I was that rich, I wouldn't look at my books at all. I'd have someone else do it for me. So,
but like that's my point though. So like, if it was a legit, I forgot about this or I missed it, it would have got caught eventually, not right when he's getting caught for accepting things he's not supposed to, which is what basically leads me to believe
he's supposed to testify at finance committee.
He tried to do this and not get caught. He got caught and basically was like, I need a bill for this and I need it stat.
Well, if there was no bill for it, is there proof that he went on it?
Yes, only all over social media.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like, I forget the exact timeline, but let's just say a week. You can. It's in the. It's in there somewhere, but he's in the comments. So a week or so ahead of him testifying at the finance committee, they did a review and then when they saw they hadn't made any payments for that travel, they then contacted we and had them tell them how much we paid for his travel when we said it was $40-something thousand. So then he paid it. So that was kind of how he got a receipt and things like that for it.
Right, okay. But it's still not permissible for him to have accepted free travel in the first place, which is what this was. Paying for it after the fact doesn't make that it wasn't free travel in the first place, which is,
correct.
In any sane society, we would just call that a bribe.
Yeah, like we might as well be talking, and I'm taking this to extreme, but like, might as well have been talking about him in question period being like, well, yeah, I got $40,000 worth of cocaine, but like I just paid it back, so it's fine. It's like, well, no.
How is this different than the
cocaine to begin with?
Yeah.
Than the housing issue we had with that senator? I don't remember names.
You're talking Mike W.
The Duffy. Yeah, the Duffy. How is like I remember, and it could just be me not understanding the problem back then, but the idea that it was paid for in the end. Or I don't know if it was paid for before or after the inquiry. It was paid back. So you're saying in that case, he paid it before the inquiry, and it was just how it was paid that was a problem. Like I'm just trying to keep my side on the moral high ground here, if you understand.
Okay, so
but if I was wrong, I need to know that I was.
There's a little bit of difference there because it was originally paid. Oh, I forget the exact details, but I think it was originally paid back by the party, and then he eventually paid it back himself.
Yeah, it was paid by the party secretary, and then he repaid the party secretary because I think he's broke at the time. Like, he didn't have enough cash to cover it. And so they just made sure it was taken care of well before anything came, not even to light per se, but I think it was long before it became like public scrutiny. Bev Oda, her big thing was $16 orange juices, which, let's face it, those are rookie numbers now. I mean, we're talking a better part of $1 billion going to a shady charity or property holding company. So, I mean, perspective, I think I'd call it the zeros for what the difference is.
Well, I think the thing that maybe is being overlooked in this is the key difference, Benny, is that Bevova and Mike Duffy were conservatives, and the king of the French fries is a liberal.
Yeah.
Just because Benny reminded me
Different
of
rules.
what was the name of the Liberal MP? We used to have a segment of the show talking to her. She was one that she spent all the money on moving expenses.
Jane Philpott.
Philpott, thank you.
Report.
Yeah, she
Oh, yeah.
she had the common sense to get out of the Liberal Party and run as an independent in the last election.
But was she not also fired from the Liberals for something as well?
Yeah, I believe so. It wasn't by choice.
Basically, the feminist, I believe, fired her just like he fired Wilson Raybould.
Yeah. That's what you do with them, right? I mean, it would be sexist if they didn't fire them for being a woman.
That's true.
If we didn't employ government
he hasn't
officials,
fired
we
any
couldn't
men
fire
yet
them
for
at
being
all
a
over anything.
It's true. Except maybe out of a cannon.
All over you.
All right, what's next?
Okay. More Reese stuff. The NDP are voting lockstep with the Liberals again.
Weird.
Another issue, because I can't take Jagmeet Singh seriously. So Spencer Fernando, and then related story on the post-millennial. NDP votes with Liberals against opposition push for more cabinet transparency on WE scandal. At the same time, Trudeau Liberals attempt to stall a release of WE documents. So I don't know if everybody else saw they tried to do like a little filibuster thing in one of the committees last week. In the ethics committee, the Liberal MPs didn't want any documents coming to light regarding the charity scandal. So they tried to filibuster that, but in the end didn't have to because the NDP just voted with the Liberals on the committee.
So
the ethics committee is a bigger joke than I thought it was.
How is it okay for the Parliament to decide, you know what, something illegal happened and we're not going to look into it?
I thought we discussed this. It's because of their parties.
Yeah.
They're Liberals and NDP.
Yeah.
Only Stephen Harper is literally the devil.
Yeah.
Is it just because the NDP can't afford another election, or is it they really start to really thinking on the same page here and they're all BFFs now?
No, they got their 10 sick days. It's payback for their sick days.
It's
no,
not.
I've commented
I don't
about
think
this.
it's even their sick days. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Marty.
I've commented about this very early on after the last election when people were saying that there's going to be an early, that a minority party typically, only lasts like 2 years. I said, this party is going full 4 years because the NDP is in a position of power right now. They have more power than they've ever had as a party. So they're not going to risk having another election because their only opportunity is to go down. Between them and the Bloc, there's nowhere for them to go but down and lose seats. So there's no way they want to trigger an election. They'll do whatever they can to prop up the Liberal government.
Yeah, and I had naively originally been one of those people saying that it won't last because minority governments in this country have never lasted. But you're right. Minority governments in this country have never lasted when other minority parties have had as little sway as they have had in the past. In this case, the coalition of the NDP and the Liberals makes them a actually relatively strong majority government.
Yeah.
Well,
so the minority governments have typically not last because the balance of power is held by, if it was the Conservatives, the balance of power is held by the Liberals. When it was Liberals, the balance of power is held by the Conservatives. So there was enough differing ideology that they would switch as soon as they saw an opportunity. But when it's being held by the NDP and the Bloc, those parties have historically had no power. So now they can get little things that they want out of the Liberals, and people are paying attention to them, which never happened before. They're not going to risk giving up whatever little power they have right now.
I think this is certainly the first. Well, it's certainly the first successful coalition government we've had, right? Because I mean, over in Europe, it's kind of a thing; they do them all the time, right? But we've never really had like a system like this where two parties make up the majority.
Which is weird because they kind of officially said that they're not going to do that.
They have.
And here they are.
Policies.
Yeah.
Since Singh has become leader, the NDP of today is not the NDP of 20 years ago. The NDP that I have stuck in my mind of like, it's the new Democrat parties, Workers Unite, Worker Power, the Proletariat, et cetera, like under Jack Layton, where it was like, oh yeah, we just want to unionize everything and have like weird trade deals that only support made in Canada stuff for unionized goods. Under saying it's not at all about worker solidarity or the plight of the proletariat, it's about globo homo. It's about making sure we have mass immigration, and particularly people that look and sound like Singh coming into this country, and that our money is going to fund people that look and sound like Singh in other parts of the world. It's not the same NDP that I have stuck in my mind from 20 years ago that was about the proletariat. This is just liberals in orange. That's all it is. Every policy that they're endorsing is basically a liberal policy.
So now the question is, how do we get the Conservatives and the Bloc to get along and play nice and maybe potentially overthrow things or turn down a vote?
We tell the Bloc that they can have Quebec. Here's your separation. We don't want anything for it. Just fuck off.
Oh,
Yeah. So
works
what
for
you're
me.
saying is if we were to take government and put it in a pie chart, there'd be the red section that says liberals, and then the orange section that says also liberals, but in orange.
Yeah.
I'm
That's what I'm getting at. Is the NDP is
Also
just
liberals.
liberals.
But in Bloc Québécois blue.
I mean, it's just
So can you just
social justice warrior in a funny hat. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So can you just clarify something? I just want to see if I'm understanding what you're saying here. Are you saying orange man bad?
I'm saying orange
No.
hat man bad.
Yeah. There's a very big difference. You can change the color of your hat. You're sort of stuck with the color of your skin.
Are you really though, Benny? I mean, Michael Jackson could certainly prove you wrong.
And this is more the color of his party, right? He's
Well,
not,
I was gonna
he's not the
say-
red man, the blue man. He's the orange man.
Yeah.
I was gonna
He's
say it
not as
depends what's in
bad
the
as
bottle
the red
that
man.
day.
I don't care for the current flavor of NDP.
I wasn't
Like,
particularly
at least
a fan of the old flavor of NDP.
Yeah.
No, but
it's gotten
at
worse.
least it was
though.
not the same flavor as the liberals, it just in a different color. Just go be the liberals. That would be easier for everybody.
We need a McCarthy. We're all communists.
I mean, they are all communists. I mean, I guess we can call the Green Party watermelons. Green on the outside, red on the inside. What would we call the NDP, though? What's orange?
Blood
on the outside,
orange?
red on the inside?
Blood orange. Yeah.
Yeah,
Blood orange.
grapefruit.
Grapefruit.
Well,
I like grapefruit.
I mean, it would be
It
nice
has
if
less
we could. Like,
connotations that will end up with me in jail at the end of this.
Yeah, agreed.
what if we just like called them the motorcycle party because there's only one of them left, much like the minivan party.
I'm so glad we have the minivan party in Ontario.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen federally the next go around. I don't think it will, but I
I
mean,
don't think it will either.
if
but
if JT and Morneau actually go down for the
They
whole
won't.
we thing and not the going
they're
down
not
that they're
gonna.
used to doing, it would certainly help. But I don't have faith in a whole lot anymore.
I have very little, but I at least have more audio of Poliver this time asking the shiniest of ponies, and go ahead and count the ums and ahs for reasons that might be relevant later.
Oh, are we gonna do that drinking game? Let me get a fresh beer. No.
You probably won't need it for this one.
So, Mr. Polly, you have 5 minutes, please.
Yes or no question, Mr. Chair. Prime Minister, you twice were found guilty of breaking the Ethics Act. After those two convictions, did you decide to read the act?
You got 14 seconds, Prime Minister.
Yes, I have read the act a number of times.
Are you aware of Section 21?
Yes, since I've read the act, I'm aware of section.
What does it
21.
say?
I can pull it up for you, but if you have it in front of you, you can remind me.
Well,
which
it says a
number that
public
is.
office holder of which you are one shall recuse himself or herself from any discussion, decision, debate, or vote in any matter in which, in respect of which he or she would be in a conflict of interest. Now, what you've admitted today is not just that you were in a conflict of interest, but that you consciously recognized in your May cabinet meeting that such a conflict might exist. That it didn't just slide by your desk, that you were consciously aware that there was an inappropriate link to your family that would put you in a conflict. Why did you, at that moment, not call the ethics commissioner and recuse yourself?
That is simply not true, Mr. Polyev. The issue of advancing issues for one's own family. And by the way, the ethics commissioner is looking into this right now, and I fully trust his judgment on determining it. But at the same time, my concern around recusing myself was a question around perceptions, because I knew full well that this Canada Summer Students Grant Program was not going to directly benefit my mother or my brother.
Your 16 seconds are up. Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again, because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the We Group. So you've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared, but I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
My mother
How much?
has
just the dollar figure.
Throughout her life.
The dollar figure, Prime Minister.
Various ways, and is proud
How much?
of the work that she's done, and I'm proud of her.
How
as well.
much? I'm looking for a dollar figure.
We can get that number for you if you like. It's been out in the media.
It's been in the media, but you don't know it?
I don't have it in front of me, and quite
you
frankly,
don't know how much your family has received from this organization, which you tried to give $500 million. Really?
Can I answer, Mr. Polyev?
I'm waiting. You haven't done an answer so far. Let's make this the first one.
My mother has worked as an advocate.
The dollar figure, Prime Minister.
Speaker for many good organizations across the country.
Mr. Prime Minister, you are being asked a direct question at a parliamentary committee.
To support her because she does her own work, and I'm proud of the work that she does. Point of order. But I do not feel that it is my responsibility to peer into the work my mother is doing, because I have
point of order to suspend.
That she's doing.
Point of order to suspend,
please. I've come to learn that the chairperson's power has gone out and is no longer part of this meeting. May I propose that we?
It's okay. We can keep Prime Minister and I can continue talking.
No.
I suspected that might be a problem. It's very convenient timing for the lights to go out.
Look, I got a message to the effect that his power has gone out. I have no reason to distrust him.
I hope you don't pull the fire alarm now.
Yeah, well, look, there's no intent in my own private home here in the middle of a pandemic. I don't have a fire alarm.
Mr. Fraser,
I propose
the general process is that the vice chair assumes the chairing of the meeting. So we'll continue.
And that would be me. So we'll continue the meeting, and I now give the floor to the member for Carleton. Mr. Prime Minister, you have. I'm going to ask you one last time. How much did your family get from this organization? How much?
Have you read the Conflict of Interest Act, Mr.
Yes,
Polyev?
I have.
How does it define family?
I'm asking you.
How does it define
I'm asking
family?
you how much your family got.
The Conflict of Interest Act defines family as spouse and direct dependents.
Point of order.
So you're not going to answer that question.
Point of order.
So you're not going to answer the question then. So you're not going to answer the question about how much your family received. Okay, you're right.
Hold it, gentlemen. If you.
For working with we, and it was cleared by
Prime
the
Minister?
Ethics Commissioner ahead of time.
Okay.
Mr.
Point of order.
Polyev,
Can I welcome
Mr.
back Wayne Easter? Can I welcome back Wayne Easter, a man we've deeply missed? Come on, Wayne, where have you been? Were you getting
look,
I had
you
things
know,
under control for you while you were gone.
I imagine that,
Wayne.
Pierre, it wouldn't be the first time you tried to put my lights out, and that's exactly what happened, Pierre. We get a thunderstorm here. Anyway, where will you're well into your 5 minutes, but go with one last question.
Mr. Trudeau, I'm going to conclude by asking you. You claim that you have no knowledge of the amount that has been paid in expenses to your spouse. You correctly pointed out that the Act defines family as including a spouse. Therefore, you know you're under investigation regarding the Act. I'm going to ask you again, how much in total And I'm looking for a dollar figure here, sir. How much did your spouse receive in reimbursed expenses or other benefits from this organization? How much?
Your
Mr. Prime
original
Minister.
question, Mr. Polyev, was how much was my immediate family?
I asked you a
my
different
family
question now.
paid For,
How much?
the work
Mr.
of
Polyev, the
my
Prime
mother-
Minister has the floor.
My wife has never been paid since I was Prime Minister.
Reimbursed
by
for
we.
expenses.
Mr.
How
Polyev,
much?
Mr. Polyev, could we please have order? We'll allow the Prime Minister to answer the question, and then we'll move on to Miss Zerowitz. Sorry, Julie. Mr. Prime Minister, you have about 30 seconds here.
The Ethics Commissioner has fully cleared my wife to continue her advocacy and her work with We Charity and other organizations.
How much?
In the kind of work that she's been doing all her life.
Just the dollar
She's
figure.
doing it unpaid for We. She is not being paid by We for her advocacy or for her podcasts. They're simply reimbursing her for expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Polyev, and I'm sorry for.
And we'll cut the honorable members off at that point. I did really enjoy that they tried to get out of having to have committee go on. Polyev was, well, I'm the vice chair, so we'll just carry on. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I call myself.
And a member of Carlton to the floor.
Yeah.
So
7 minutes of not answering the actual questions being asked. Although I do find it funny that at the beginning of the 7 minutes, Trudeau didn't know anything about the Ethics Act, and at the end of the 7 minutes, he would quote from memory the definition of a family member.
He also walked into the building wearing an earpiece, and he's not deaf, and he speaks both languages.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, he's probably
I
going
like how you started that off.
Yeah.
I think you started that off with just the I definitely know what it is. But why don't you tell us?
Yeah.
He sounds like a grade schooler.
I have definitely read this, but please remind me what it says.
I'm sure we've all been in a business meeting where we've had to pull that one out of our back pocket.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is basically my 9 to 5, but neither here nor there.
Yeah. No, I've absolutely read the business plan, but like, just for clarity's sake, why don't you tell me what you think it means since you wrote it?
Yeah, why don't you take us through it one more time, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
The difference being when I'm in those meetings and I have that conversation where I ask the senior engineer present to remind me what we're doing, I don't then start to quote them the detailed specs from their own schematic.
Well, but the other thing that makes a huge difference in this whole thing is that you haven't been given a bunch of money from a charity that is now in turn getting a bunch of government money. That's probably also kind of the crucial thing there.
That is true. That is true.
And was one thing that I found particularly interesting is that he specifically said, we awarded them this money under no expectations that we would be receiving anything in return. But that's not discrediting the fact that this potentially could be in repayment for money already received.
Yeah, he's saying that she's not getting paid; she's just getting her expenses paid back to her. But what are her expenses, and what is she getting back? Because we should at least see if those $2 figures match up. My guess is they don't.
Yeah, I'm going with 100% they do not.
In which case, that means she's
probably
getting paid.
There's probably a couple of instances of $41,000 or so that they just happen to forget about.
Yeah.
Oh,
it happens.
More than once, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it happens though. Like, when you've got all that money, I mean, it's so easy to miss 41 grand.
Here's my problem with that. It doesn't make a difference how much money is missing. I can only imagine, and it could just be me being a poor and not know how rich people roll. But I would imagine that the people who, when they say like, my people talk to your people, that Murnau's people would be like, yo, it's illegal for our dude to travel and not pay for this. We should probably make sure he pays for this. And if not, and if it's him doing it, then you'd think like he should be aware of, hey, this is totally illegal for me not to pay for it. I should probably make sure I'm paying for it. At this point, it's no longer a question of how big is the dollar amount. It's a question of, am I a law-abiding citizen or am I a criminal? You know, they keep trying to putting us in that box of criminal. Excuse me, mister, how many times have you broken the law?
But it's not breaking the law when they do it.
So if it's the Ethics Act, it's
yes
5
and no,
times.
Benny. So, for one thing, I do think the dollar figure does matter. If we're talking, if this was like $5 out, I don't think anybody, none of us would care. There is a point where the dollar figure doesn't matter and where the dollar figure does matter. So I do think that
unless it's a $6 orange juice, then like that's where people draw the line.
Yeah. So I do think there's a point. Now the other thing in terms about whether why are these people so incompetent? I think that you have to remember the fact that the way our political system is, these people are incompetent. Like the person that's the Minister of Fisheries was the Minister of Education prior. They have no understanding about their file whatsoever. And it's all just rewards for backroom deals. So it's incompetence everywhere.
I mean, you call it incompetence, but I call it job security.
Yeah, it's incompetence surrounds itself with incompetence. Competent people would refuse to be they just wouldn't be able to stand working in an environment like this for any length of time. And so you just end up with incompetence all the way around. So my guess is that the person that's looking after, booking travel for Morneau and stuff like that, We Charity is probably like, oh, we'll take care of that. And they were like, sweet. No, I don't need to do it.
Cool. Don't got to do that. Going home early.
Yeah. It's a lot of this stuff, although it looks malicious, I really think is mostly just incompetence.
I mean, having had interactions with the government in the past, I believe you're likely right, because the government generally is incompetent. Yeah. I don't think that they're on purpose trying to F me over, but it just turns out that way all the time.
Is there such a thing as malicious incompetence, though? Because if so, that's government.
I think that there is, and I think it's been invented and perfected by government.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're just willfully ignorant to the point where you don't care what you're doing or not doing or just don't know, and you know it's bad, but you're still just being ignorant anyways, I'd say that falls into that, which basically sounds like government. It's why would I bother checking my books? Who cares if something's paid or not paid? Not my problem. It's tax dollars anyways.
Yeah, it's not my money.
Not my money.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the biggest issue we have with government is its lack of accountability. We just listened to Ethics Commission and Finance Commission, and not a single answer was made. This is where they're supposed to be held accountable, and they're not held accountable. You want
a good laugh, the whole ethics committee thing was like a 4.5 hour. That was just the best 7 minutes of it.
I mean,
but the whole 4.5 hours is like that.
Yeah. If anything, though, anytime an answer is given, it's usually given by the person that's asking the question, because they're getting fed up with the person not giving them the answer, even though they already know it. They just want the person being asked the question to admit something, which they never do.
Correct. It's a lawyer is never going to ask a question that they don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
Well, a good lawyer.
Well, most politicians started as lawyers anyway.
Yeah.
But actually, it's interesting enough, very much like Conrad Black back in the day, and I don't think they keep a lot of paper records anyway, but Mailman New Brunswick there asked the question about the U-Haul trucks in front of Wee's HQ. Put a link in the show notes there to the fact that somebody took a picture of 10 U-Haul moving trucks parked in front of Wee's HQ right now, removing stuff. So there goes the evidence, whatever there may be.
Well,
Shredder
goes for. Is it just going to be held for a year or so until somebody has to pay back a bill? Yeah. And we can just fabricate some new evidence for you.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think they would have gotten smart and at least rented something other than a U-Haul. right? Switch it up a little.
Like a wood chipper.
Why? It's the truck of peace, no? Oh no, isn't that Raider? My mistake. I'm sorry.
I would have just bought that portable shredding van that can shred 50,000 sheets per minute or so whatever. Just wind that bad boy up to max and just go burr for a few hours.
Or just start a fire. Then you get the insurance money too.
That's right.
But yeah, it's like you keep getting these emails that it's always like a Nigerian prince. Why don't they switch it up to some other country and make it at least a little bit more believable? It's always the same scam.
Nigeria has the best princes. Everybody knows that.
Their bank accounts are huge. Huge.
Let's start wrapping this up. If you've wondered where the money for We Charity went, along with all of their paper records, you might want to get yourself an official Big Luau shirt on Amazon. Use our affiliate link. You get the official shirt, and also we get a cut. So, buy a shirt. Also, 3 petitions. Some of the petitions that started closing for signatures, 3 of them are still open. The 3 remaining ones close early in September. Go sign the petitions. Make me feel better. Go around. Gavin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
The best place to find me is on the gram, Urbex_GTA.
All right. Marty, where can everyone find the show?
CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com.
Good enough. Ian, where's your other podcast?
Well, you can reach me by email at theidleretreat@gmail.com, or you can find me recording 9 p.m. Eastern on Sundays on Canadian Prepper Podcast, also on YouTube and Facebook.
Benny, where can everybody find you?
BennyLewis.ca. We
The
have
jingle
stickers
is
now.
just getting shorter as the weeks go on.
We have stickers now.
All right. If you've listened to this podcast for this long, you deserve a discount code. Go to RagnarokTactical.ca, use discount code Patriot at checkout. You'll save some money. $10 flat rate shipping on everything. And for reasons that may be related to the official Big Luau shirts, we have lots of body armor. Come buy some body armor. For all of you listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North. Strong and free.